Hello, BookTube, and welcome back. I am cracking on with my read through of the Baillie Gifford long list of non-fiction. If you don't know, if you've not watched any of the previous videos and you don't know what the Baillie Gifford is, it is a book award for non-fiction that's been published within the UK between October and October. So it's an annual thing. They usually long list about 12 books, and I try and read the entire long list before the short list gets announced. Couldn't do it this year as the one of the books published date was the same as the shortlist announcement date, so I was kind of stabbed in the back. But I'm still going to do it and then, compare and contrast to what the judges thought should be shortlisted to what I thought was shortlisted. And it's been a fairly decent lineup this year, and this book right here continues that lineup. This is Captives and Companions by Justin Marozzi. This is a look at the Islamic slave trade. Now, I've read a few books around, the European colonial slave trade and the Atlantic slave trade to the Americas. I've never read anything about just focusing purely on the Islamic world slave trade. This was an eye-opener. I really enjoyed this book. So this is looking at, from its genesis, from the Prophet Muhammad, and it covers a lot of subjects. This book, it's a quite chunky non-fiction book. So it's looking at slave revolts against the masters, but not to just end slavery. It's to gain the land, gain the castles, and then have their own slaves. It's talking about piracy and how they captured Jewish people, Christians, and other Muslims, and brought them into the Ottoman Empire. It talks about how sometimes slaves could get really, really high in high society, as military leaders, as really personal soldiers, as people who lead the countries, and this is a really well crafted book. It just flows. It's told in a series of events beginning in, I think it's 600 AD all the way up to present times. So it talks how how when the British abolished slavery, how the British kind of went over to all these African countries and said, you're going to stop that now, and how those African countries kind of the British are trying to push their imperialism on us, so let's fight this back, and how they kept the slave trade going like that. And there's also the slave trade is the British would be like, okay, that might wreck their economy, so let's not do that because we kind of rely on that economy. Typical British stuff, and it goes and talks through the Ottomans, the Ottoman collapse and what that meant for the slave trade, and up to modern day slavery too, and what's going on in modern day, how many slaves are currently in the UK, the US, Saudi Arabia, and so forth. And Justin has done something. He has cracked a narrative here. It's an immensely readable, digestible book. I mean, for such a deep kind of genre, it's about slavery. So it's a grip and read. I mean, I sort of told you this is a big book, but I'm trying to click my fingers. That was pathetic, that one. This is about 500-600 pages, whatever it is, but I polished it off in 2 days. Well, close to 2 days, and it just absolutely flew by. And he uses personal stories throughout the eras as well of concubines, becoming really powerful, about people who taken and then fled back to the countries and wrote books, up to people who are experiencing modern day slavery right now. So this is a fascinating read, folks, and if you're interested in the subject, as I am, you need to pick this up, and it's a fascinating piece of world history which I've never read about before either. So this is Captives and Companions by Justin Marozzi. Pick her up, folks. It's really, really good. It's going to be a tough shortlist for me this year for the Baillie Gifford. This is another excellent book, and that's Captives and Companions.